All right, I'm going to try and take you through the vocal warm up that I would normally do with you in class. This is going to be weird. It'll be just as weird for me as it is for you, probably weirder. So, the very first thing we want to do when we're warming up our voice is make sure that our instrument is aligned properly. And the phrase that we use for the proper posture is neutral stance, as in you're not putting any of your tensions into the instrument. So a lot of us have tendencies to stand in ways that are really not the way our body was designed. I'm sure there's some of you that, like me, you kind of lean forward with your head all the time. I don't know if that's just because I'm in a perpetual state of confusion or because I had bad eyes growing up. But yeah, my head comes forward. Really, you want to make sure you're aligned. So it doesn't mean you're stiff, it means you're relaxed. So the first thing I usually talk about is just going from the bottom of your body to the top and just thinking about tensions you might be putting in. So the first thing I do is I say make sure your knees aren't locked. You can't see my knees. If you stand perfectly straight and rigid, your knees are locked, and that puts tension throughout your whole body. You feel it right up into your bum. Sorry for the image, but if you lock your knees. So you want to relax your knees. You want your feet about shoulder width apart, which is actually a little wider than you imagine. So if you're in the room, I'd be going around and just literally checking, are your feet shoulder width apart? For some people, their feet would be apart like they were riding a motorcycle, and I point out that your shoulders aren't out to here, even if that's what you wish they were. So just try to get an idea, and you'll know that they're shoulder width apart when it just feels right and comfortable. Your body, your skeleton is designed so that your legs are the pillars. So when you're balanced above them, your legs take the weight. Your toes of your feet, if you put them perfectly straight, that's going to lock your knees. If you have them literally is my favorite word. If you have them ever so slightly turned out, ever so slightly, not this, that's going to put different tension in your body, but ever so slightly turned out. So these are your toes. Then your knees should be nice and loose. And I do this little wiggle in the room, and I make sure that everyone else is doing it. I can tell when I'm walking around and people are warmed up if their knees are locked. And what I'll warn people before I do it, because a grown-up should never touch you in any way without asking permission or warning you. I'll come around, I just gently use my foot to give a little nudge behind their knee. If their knees are locked, there's full tension there, but usually if it feels a little loose, you're a happy camper. If your knees aren't locked, you're probably not tensing your bum and the muscles through your upper legs. So the next thing we do is we bring our shoulders forward. Bring them forward, bring them up towards your ears, roll them back, and then just let them drop at your side. Okay, so my shoulders are like that, not like this, not like this. So they're hanging nice and loose, and I constantly do these little movements. God, it looks funny to see myself doing it. I apologize for these images. I'm just making sure everything's nice and fluid. Remember, I use the analogy of if you're going to play sports, you get yourself ready to move in any direction. Well, in neutral stance, you're just relaxing, so there's no tension. So your instrument is available, and you're not putting pressure on your voice. If you don't understand what that is, well, then try and put yourselves in the shoes of someone who's playing Hamlet. That's the most lines of any character in Shakespeare's plays, which have a lot of words in them. If you're having to speak so much in 3.5 hours every performance, 8 performances a week, if you have extra tension on your voice, it's not going to last. So just learning to take care of your voice is a really useful thing as an actor. For that matter, if you want to bother your parents and have them do this warm-up, or your siblings, learning to have your body properly aligned and breathing is basically core tenets of yoga and meditation. And the reason is when we learn to relax and not put tensions in our body, we tend to think better, be more relaxed in the mind, less anxious, and we stay healthier. So I always try to remind myself I need to relax. I get a lot of tension in my shoulders. So we bring them up to our ears, relax them. We make sure our knees are still loose, toes ever so slightly apart. Then the head. A lot of us do really weird things with our head. And that's why our necks are sore all the time, particularly if you're studying. A lot of you might, So just make sure your head is kind of floating above you. I don't mean physically try to extend your head, but kind of use the image of there's a wire attached to it and it's taking all of the weight of your head and just floating it up there. Or if your head as balloon works for you. I just find that makes me think I would have no brain. That makes me a little sad. So you'll often see me when we're doing our warm-up in real life rather than in video. I'll be doing my little knee shake, making sure my shoulders are loose, and my head will inevitably do these little things. I'm just making sure it's loose and it's above. If I'm talking and my head goes like this, then my voice gets pinched. It's less pleasant, and the reason it's less pleasant is there's a tension. It would be the equivalent of taking, having your superhuman strength, taking your trombone, and as you're playing, you bend your trombone. I would think the sound is not going to sound so awesome. So we don't do that. We make sure we're accessible. It doesn't mean you have to walk around acting in this one way all the time. It just means if you're playing a character, a little evil wizard, now you're still kind of aware of keeping this aligned within your interesting body posture. Does that make sense? Watching myself do this is really disturbing. All right, once we're in our neutral stance, all that work, then we make sure we're breathing from our diaphragm. So I know we talked a little about this last week. I repeat it constantly during this unit and in normal circumstances because a lot of people get really confused. You're not controlling your breathing as in you're literally just relaxing. So with all of this tension out of your body, your lungs have all the room. You relax your belly. I put my hands right on there. When my breath comes in, I just kind of visualize filling up my lungs. Not pulling in the air, but just relaxing. So I can have a deeper breath. Having a deeper breath means I'm filling up my lungs, which means I'm starting on a full tank. So I can speak longer without running out of air. The problem is once you run out of air, once your lungs start to get compressed by your diaphragm to a certain point where you start to run low on air, then your voice gets pinched. And then when you take a breath quickly at the end of a sentence, all you do is refill it to halfway. If you start on a full tank, then that little breath refills you to the bottom. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so once we're diaphragm breathing, we always constantly check in as we're doing any of these vocal exercises, or if we're about to act, we always think, am I breathing correctly? If you're not, stop what you're doing. It's kind of pointless. So, I encourage people to hum and sigh a lot. So if I get into my neutral stance, I might be putting on my costume to get ready to go. As I'm putting on my costume, I hum or I sigh. Sighing is like musically playing a scale up and down the piano. You're just hitting all the notes. So, and you feel a nice little vibration inside your instrument. That's a good thing. That's the equivalent of you're about to play your song at the coffee house and you're just noodling a bit on your guitar. My air instruments need some work. I would imagine if you're about to play a brass instrument, you're incorporating your lips in that. So you hum or sigh or pick your favorite song, preferably a song that has a lot of notes in it. So classical music has a lot of notes. And just hum. That way you're warming up whatever you're doing. Even if I know I'm going to be talking a lot, or if I have a really long day as a teacher, God knows I'll be talking a lot. It's what I do. I'll be humming on the car ride to school. Not because I'm a big hummer, I'm all for it. It's literally, I'm going to warm up my voice while I'm enjoying listening to whatever I'm listening to, while I'm doing whatever I'm doing, thinking. And it becomes second nature. It's a good way to take care of your voice. So, if you want, in order to find like neutral stance, you can lie on the floor and just try and make sure your body is entirely relaxed, and then stand up and try and keep that kind of energy. So, One of the first things I do is I try to open up my airway, and I do that with a big obnoxious yawn. Now my wife is making fun of me off camera. So by doing that big yawn, I'm at the back of my mouth is opening wide. The top of my mouth, the soft palate, one of the articulators, is opening up wide. And I'm expanding my body and my lungs. This is good because this is all part of my instrument. You may also have noticed, like a horror movie, my shirt getting higher and higher, but it didn't expose my middle-aged man hairy belly because I'm wearing a shirt that I chose to warm up in. It's loose, it's long, and I don't want to have to ever feel like I'm worried that, my underwear is showing or my belly is showing. You don't have to dress up special for drama, but you should always wear stuff you can move in without being inhibited. It's a real big bummer if someone's in the middle of an exercise and they stop because they're worried that, their shirt is falling too far open or it's coming up too high. So whatever that is for you, for me, jeans and a long shirt so that I can reach up without exposing anything that no one wants to see. Yoga pants maybe work for you. Whatever it is, jogging pants. It should be something that you can relax in. Because no one can relax if they're worried about how people are looking at our body or what we're accidentally showing them. No one wants that by accident, or on purpose for that matter. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to do a second part because that's the neutral stance in the very beginning. And I need to find out what my family needs from me right now. All right.